Welcome back to Law and Crime, everybody. I'm Jesse Weber, joined here on set by Jessica Ramirez. I also have Jasmine Barber with us via Skype. We're breaking down some big cases and big legal stories that are happening in the news. Let's get started right now. And I know that could be a bit confusing, so just to break it down, they were found both of them guilty on many of the 49 counts. Jennifer's top count, as you heard, was guilty of felony murder. It was connected to the cruelty of children charge. She was found not guilty of malice murder. Joseph's top count was guilty of murder in the second. Both were found guilty of many of the aggravated assault and battery and cruelty to children charges. And when we talk about what they were sentenced to, Jennifer was sentenced to life in prison plus 40 years to serve. Her husband Joseph was sentenced to 50 years with 30 to serve. Jesse, I'll start with you. Your reaction to that verdict and the sentence?
I thought that it was a very fair verdict. I followed this case. There were so many witnesses, so many collaborating witnesses that had nothing to gain. We weren't listening to experts paid by the defense. We were listening to regular people, to a doctor and an ER that sees so many clients, so many kids and people coming in, and there was a red flag for him. So again, there was a lot here. There was too much evidence against them, and I thought they were guilty.
Jasmine, I want to come to you. Jasmine Barber, criminal defense attorney, is with us via Skype. Let me ask you this. Was this a harder case for the prosecution to prove than what we were just covering with Lindsey Parton? Is it similar to that? Because there seemed to be questions that maybe there was reasonable doubt here. What was your thought on it?
I think that maybe this case was a little bit easier to prove when you look at who's to blame for the case. I don't think that you had the ability to say, was it the dad or was it the babysitter in this circumstance? You were just looking at the two foster parents and whether they caused this child's injuries that ultimately led to her death. And then from the verdict, it appears that the jury clearly did not believe they intended to kill her, but that they did cause the injury that ultimately led to her death, which would be the felony murder with the cruelty to children as the underlying felony.
Right, and look, so much of what they said became evidence, and I want to go right now to Sergeant Wayne Harrison, who's from the Henry County Police Department. He testified about what Jennifer told him after Layla died. Let's play that. One of the biggest issues in this case, Jessica, was this manner of trying to resuscitate this girl and trying to perform CPR. And we know that Jennifer was in the military at one point. And it was a question of, didn't she have the proper instruction about how to do this? And, you know, hitting her on the back, using a butter knife to get it out. Did that strike you as an odd way to try to save a young girl?
Absolutely, and scary. You don't put a knife on anybody's throat to try to get anything out. You might cause more harm. So again, I really had a tough time with this case because it was so clear to me that they caused this abuse. Again, there were so many collaborating witnesses that had no skin in the game that were there and saw bruising. We saw even the old foster mom, when the kids would come back home, they would have bruising. Friends, a young girl, a 16-year-old girl that was the gymnastics instructor, again, a young girl who really hasn't had life experience, is pulling the child and asking, what's going on? What is going on with that bruise in your face? So again, I think that it was a just verdict.
Well, let's throw to somebody that did have that life experience. Dr. Charles Evans, who's an emergency room physician, he observed Layla and said, something's not right. Jasmine, that was powerful. What'd you make of that?
It's horrible. Just his testimony combined with Jennifer's statements prior to on how she tried to resuscitate the child, I'm horrified by it. And I think that this is another case where, similar to Lindsey Parton from the last case, they're trying to explain away these injuries and they're just not doing themselves any favors.
It seemed like it was a matter of numbers, Jessica. It's one thing to have one witness come by and say, these injuries, I've never seen anything like. But there were so many people brought forward by the state who said, this doesn't happen. This doesn't happen from some girl falling down or having these injuries. Something's wrong here. I mean, just to give everybody an idea of what we're talking about some serious complications to this girl, like transected pancreas, severe blood loss, broken bones, bruising. She was not adequately fed. This is a problem. This is something that can't be explained away by just childhood antics.
This was horrific, and this was a case where something could have been done. This was a case where Child Protective Services was in this little girl's life. They placed this little girl. They were supposed to be checking on her. They were supposed to be checking the home, which they never did. Usually you're supposed to get reports from doctors. The case manager of this child should have been looking at the reports from different doctors, and they didn't. They dropped the ball. So this is a horrific case. Again, there are so many witnesses that really, I always go back to who's going to testify. Do they have any stake in the game, and are they testifying or being paid? Here, there's so many witnesses that just came by themselves and talked about the horrific injuries that they saw.
And these witnesses, crucial in this case, because when we come back, we're going to play you competing narratives, two experts talking about what happened to Layla, but we're also going to play you the testimony of Layla's young sister who took the stand as well. A lot to cover. We'll be right back right after this.